thank you so much for all your questions. We're going to kick this straight off here, and we'll start off by just asking the members of the Go team to introduce themselves, starting with Jonathan Amsterdam.
I'm Jonathan Amsterdam. I am a software engineer on the Go team in New York. If you were here last year, I was talking about Slog, which was some work I did, and I also did some work on the net HTTP package, which I'll be talking about tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Zvonimir. I'm also a member of the Go team. I'm a software engineer. I joined the Go team about 3 years ago. I work on the security topics, in particular vulnerability management, and this is my first GopherCon.
Is this on? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Alice Merrick, and I'm a user experience researcher on the Go team. I've been on the Go team about 5 years now, and you might not have seen me making too many commits, but you might have seen a couple of my blog posts on the Go developer survey. That's one of the main research projects that I do for the Go team.
And I'm Cameron Balahan. I'm the product lead for the Go team. Do the product manager stuff.
Excellent. Okay, and so we're going to kick off a question from Michelle here. Michelle asks, what do you feel about the complexity behind Go's simplicity? Is it hard to deal with? Is it hard to make it simple?
Alice? No, do you haven't thought about that? I don't know.
I would say yes, but I am also not always responsible for making it simple, so.
I would say some of the original decisions that were made before all of our times to sort of get what Go was meant to address in the first case, the scalability problem at Google and the reaction to overcomplexity in other languages. Coming up with that sort of vision, I think that sounds very difficult, and I don't think I would have been capable of doing that. But now that those decisions have been made, I think like it keeps paying dividends, and it's easy to say no to things because it's that whole mantra that no is temporary, yes is permanent. We could always reevaluate. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I'd say it's not that hard, but only because there were those who came before us and did a really great job.
Yeah, to expand on that, the hardest thing is saying no to proposals and stuff, but because we have this reputation that we're probably going to say no, maybe it's not as painful. You know what I mean? Like, people understand that we're trying to keep it simple, so when they propose a lot of stuff that doesn't get in, I hope you all realize that that's not because it's not a good idea. I mean, most feature proposals are good ideas, but we always try to be really conservative about it.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, this is like a fireside chat, so maybe we could actually have a fireplace up on. There we go. Although, psychologically, that genuinely does make me feel warmer. It's on these little monitors as well, unnecessarily. There's a few questions here about generics. What's the next step for generics? What can we expect?
Do you want to speak to it, Jonathan?
Generic type aliases. You can expect them in experimental mode in Go 123, which is the next Go release. You have to set an environment variable or something, or an experiment flag. But yeah, so you will be able to write not only a generic type, but a generic type alias, where you write something generic with an equal sign, and then that refers to some other type. Beyond that, I don't think there are a lot of plans for generics. They're pretty much fully baked. People talk about, multiple generic, like generic parameter ... where you have like multiple possible generic parameters to the same thing. I don't think that will ever happen. People would love to have generic methods. I don't think that will ever happen for really good technical reasons. So aside from type aliases, I don't think there's anything on the horizon.
Well, just filling out the rest of the standard library, like getting generics everywhere, that it makes sense to have.
Yeah.
Torsten asks, is there any decision in Go that you kind of regret, that you wish you could have a time machine, go back in time and make a tweak? What would you change?
We did that. We
Just a breaking change.
we changed the semantics of for loop variables by going backwards in time and rewriting. We didn't quite go backwards in time, but we did something I thought was pretty impressive. That took a tremendous amount of work, even though, you may probably it's very unlikely you were affected by that work because, except maybe to fix bugs. But we did a tremendous amount of work when we made that change to make sure that either nothing would break, or if anything broke, it would be really easy to undo that change. And to this day, I think you can still, if you specify an older Go version, you won't get that change. So you can make your project go backwards in time by using an old Go version in your go.mod file.
Nice. Love a bit of time machine. There's a few questions here on different number types and enums. Will we see enums in Go? Enumerators? Or enums?
I want to see them one day.
Should we just do it?
We should, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, there may be, hopefully it's not for like a Java conference ad pops up.
Oh, cool.
Don't worry, we'll skip ads. The Extraordinary Collection. Cool, sorry, it's a side gig.
But yeah, I like them. I don't think it's a super high priority at the moment, just because of all the other priorities. But I think it's also not foreclosed. It's just not actively discussed. But I personally, that's one of the things that I would like.
That feels like a feature that you could easily add. Like, I don't mean like technically. I just mean that from the design of the language, I feel like there's plenty of space for what that might look like.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think so.
Me too.
Well, since you think it's so easy, Matt, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What's the default value of an enum? Of
0.
the enum int32 or int64? What's the default value? Well, that one may be too easy. What about int32 or string? And is that the same type as string or int32?
I didn't realize it was going to turn into
Anyway,
a roast.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
No,
it's actually it's questions like that because Go has default values. Every type has a default value. So it's really hard to figure out what that should be. There's no good answer. So I think that's
Just the
one
first
of the
one.
things.
First one in the list.
The first
Sort it.
one.
Sort it. Next.
Can I say one thing more about enums?
Yeah,
so
please.
I read all your responses to the Go developer survey, and I do see requests for enums quite a lot, but you don't always call them enums, right? So sometimes people ask me for other kinds of types, right? So sometimes people ask me for union types or algebraic types or other kinds of types that I've never even heard of, and I find out it might mean the same thing as an enum, or it might mean something completely different. So when you're giving that kind of feedback, it'd be really useful to know, why do you need this?
So include the use case in your request.
Yeah, or what are you doing? What is this preventing you from doing? What do you have to do instead? How does this make your life painful? Because if you can make a really good case for how painful your life is without enums, then it gives me some really good feedback to give to the rest of the team. Other than just enums, please.
Is there a plan to make it possible to declare a structs method as generic without the struct itself being generic?
No.
Thank you. Quick fire round. I thought you were going to ask me to design it for a minute, Jonathan. How near is a Go 2.0 release with possible breaking changes?
It's is there going to be a Go 2? And the answer is no, never.
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 Never say never, but there we go.
In this case, never.
In this case.
Well, let's elaborate on that. So the reason we don't need to have a Go 2 is we have the Go line or directive in the go.mod file, which means you can always, as I was explaining with the for loop change, you can always pick the version of Go that you want to pin to, in effect. So if we do make a breaking change, which, by the way, is extremely unlikely that we'd make another language breaking change, because in 12 years or something, that was the only one that actually stood out, the one we've already fixed. But if we were to, you could always set that thing, and that Go variable. And there's also, for very, very sort of subtle behavioral breaking changes, which we sometimes have to make, I'll talk about one tomorrow, there's a Go debug environment variable. You can always arrange it so that you're back in Go 117 or something like that. So there's no reason to have a Go 2, because if we did need to break something, we could control it with those mechanisms.
But also that compatibility promise, the thing that says that everything from Go 1 onward will be compatible, is actually, like, we think that was maybe the most important design decision that was made in Go 1, because compatibility is just so much more important than any potential breaking thing that we could introduce. So Jonathan's right. We did provide the facility to make compatibility even easier. It's more than, like a convenience thing. It's like a really fundamental thing in the language. It's a security thing. It's ensuring that you can upgrade without pain. And with the loop example that he gives, we will fix buggy behavior, and that might break your code if you relied on the buggy behavior. And that's what the compatibility work that Jonathan's referring to is meant to alleviate. But we will never create breaking changes, and we never have.
Let me just follow up about the buggy behavior. Going back to that for loop thing where we changed the semantics of the for loop variable. One of the secret weapons of Go is that we run it on the entire internal Google code base before we release. So every release has already been tested on a massive code base of Go. So when we ran that for loop change on all the Go code inside Google, we found many breaking changes. And I think with maybe one exception, every single one was a broken test. That the test was broken because the test was basically a no-op because it assumed the variable semantics was different from what it actually was. So in a way, that change fixed a lot of buggy behavior.
Yeah, and the compatibility thing, it's way more important even than I think anyone realizes, because I think that's why most of modern sort of infrastructure still runs on Go. Like, you could bet on Go, and you didn't have to have this constant pain of going back and updating things. So I agree that that's probably was the thing that it was a massive important thing. Question for Alice. Alice, did lots of people complain about arenas disappearing?
Arenas?
Yeah, memory arenas.
No.
No. Okay, well, unrelated. What happened to memory arenas? Do you think they'll come back to life? So this is where you could say, we're gonna manage memory explicitly here. We aren't going to rely on the garbage collector and all the automatic stuff. We're going to just for this bit, we're going to take control and do something and have that control.
So I'm not actually on the compiler and runtime team, so I don't know the details. My recollection of that was that there was in many architectures you could make misuse of that panic, but in some architectures you could not. You could not catch misuse of that feature. It was essentially explicit memory free. And I think I don't think it's done, but I think we're very uncomfortable with the idea of having a feature there where you can't detect a misuse of it.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right, we've got some other good questions here. Is there going to ever be nil safety at some point in Go?
Not anytime soon. It's never say never on this one, but I don't think it's anywhere near sort of the list of priorities. In part because of sort of problems we've seen in other languages. So no, not a priority. That's what I should say.
I mean, I understand the desire for nil. So nil safety means you never get a null pointer exception because you explicitly say for every type, could this be nil or not? And if you say it's not, then it never will be. That's great. I totally get that, why you would want that. But the reason why it would be low on our list is those sort of bugs are like the best possible, aside from compile time problems, they're the best possible bug. Your program stops at a specific place, you get a super clean stack trace. I mean, I have those problems like maybe several times a week, and they're just 5-minute fixes. I understand that it would be nice to have, but I don't think we'll have it, especially since the way to fix that is with these enumerated types, and we don't have those. And if we added them, then even then we would sort of bifurcate the ecosystem if we use them to give nil safety. So it doesn't seem like something that's really on the horizon for me.
Yeah, I would just add that we actually are looking at that problem from different perspective. We are at the static analysis and the security team. We are constantly looking at building a wet checker that can, catch, let's say trivial nil cases. The problem is that you can have a higher false positive rate. So that's why we're kind of a little bit hesitant to going deeper into that. But it's something we are constantly looking at and monitoring. And at some point in the future, we might add it, but there's no promise.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And what about ternary, the Elvis operator? What about these? That's a little bit of syntax. How do you feel about that?
Are people trolling us, Matt, would you say?
Maybe because of the fire, they do think this is roast the Go team.
Hard pass.
As generics, right? What? As generics still?
No, the question mark colon thing that you haven't. I think we pretty much said no to that like on day one. You can read Effective Go or one of the very early documents about why we don't have that. Because people use it too much. They say question mark something, colon, question mark something, colon, colon, and then you can't read it. And of course, there's an argument to be had there. Yeah, well, don't do that. That's bad style. And can't you write bad style in existing Go? Yes, you can. But at some point, you just have to say it's just not worth it. I think that ship has sailed.
And this one's for you as well, Jonathan. When will new context, from context, and with context functions be available in slog?
Again, total troll question. Okay, the answer is that's a little triggering for me. We had an extensive discussion on that when we did when I say we, because it was me and the entire Go community, or everyone who wanted to participate. There was a discussion, there's an issue, you can go back and read them. It's only 800 comments on the issue. If you can get GitHub to load for you, you can read them all. But there was a lot of country. So the feature is that you can put a logger in a context, and then you can pass it through multiple layers of things that don't care about logging and pull it out at the end and use it for something low level that does care about logging. And to me, that's a really nice thing to have. So we originally had some functions that did that, let you do that easily. But a lot of people don't like the idea of putting things in context. Oh, well, how much time do we have? I could really I'm not going to do my whole rant about that. But the bottom line is we felt it was too controversial, so we didn't put it in. It's easy for each individual project to edit back, but since everyone's going to use a different key in the context, you won't be able to interoperate. So you can still do that. I still do that in my projects. But we've lost the ability to interoperate. And someone's free to make a proposal for that, but I don't think if we relitigated it, we'd come up with a different answer. I think it's just too controversial to add.
Fair enough. This question says, Cameron talked about how important it is for Google that their products intertwine. Has there ever been any plans or any thoughts around providing an Android SDK in Go?
I'm not sure that it's that important that they intertwine. I think there's a lot of evidence that they sometimes don't intertwine. It's more that there was a huge overlap between what Google cares about for its own business, it's for Go users, and even for external Go users, and then what Go users want. So, okay. That's the first point. But to the second thing, the Android thing, I believe there once was, and that didn't work out. And now, I mean, SDK for Android. I guess they mean like actually building Android apps with Go. And no, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. The whole Kotlin on Android thing is here to stay, as far as I know.
Okay. This questioner has written like loads of code, although he didn't check your errors, whoever asked this question. This was essentially around working with currencies, and it's very difficult at the moment to work with currencies. Are there any plans to provide a user-friendly way of dealing with currencies, maybe in the standard library?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any plans. I hear you, but I am not aware of any plans that we have or any like real sort of advanced discussions on that. But it's not a bad idea. I think it's just a priority question.
My question would be why couldn't there be, or isn't there a good third-party library? Like Shop Spring Decimal maybe would be a starting place. I don't know why a third-party library couldn't do a fine job with that. So if that questioner wants to come talk to us later, we can discuss it further.
Yeah, cool. Okay, this question says, if you must pick a feature that is present in another language but not in Go, that you would bring in, which one would you pick and why? And note, it does say must. So you must do this, according to the question.
Is it capital must, like an RFC 870?
Yeah, if you don't do it, we panic.
I can start. I come from a functional programming world, or CAML, so I really miss algebraic data types at times. And also, I did a lot of research on type inference, so I sometimes kind of hate spelling out all the types. So that's the part, that I would like to get back from a CAML, but I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Algebraic data types is yet another name for enumerated types.
Well, you just have all the answers as an enum. Cool. Is there any interesting difference between Go developers working inside Google and those that are outside Google? Is there anything?
Oh, yes.
Oh, really?
So one, we mostly talk to developers outside of Google, so all of you. But the way that software development works within Google is they're very special snowflakes. Not everybody has to not everybody has to scale to the level that they do. Not everybody has such a massive monorepo. They do their dependency management differently. It is very different. And the needs of Go developers outside of Google is different, which is why we put the resources on understanding what you need.
But then at the highest level, just to sort of not undermine the case I made earlier this morning, there is still the common desire for the productivity, the production grade software, the things like that. There just happen to be some things at Google that make it a little bit sort of harder for internal developers to push their code into production. And maybe for good reason, or maybe like vestiges of the past in some cases, but the principles are still the same.
Yeah. Is there a risk that Go's license could change from an open source license to something more commercial?
I think absolutely not.
Oh, right. Can we have that in writing?
Isn't that what the license already says?
Yeah, but then they changed the license. I didn't know you could do that. I'm going to go and change my contract for my apartment. No, but I think because HashiCorp did it with Terraform, and that sort of was a little bit disruptive for people. Oh, there's a question here, very practical. When should you use init methods, and when shouldn't you? They're easy to abuse, these ones, aren't they?
So what happens sometimes is you have something that you can't write you want it to be a global variable, and you can't, or at least my recommendation would be a global, effectively constant variable that you don't write to. But you want, to initialize it is a little complex. You need a for loop to initialize it. That's when you use an init function, when you have a global variable that you need to initialize to some value before the program starts, and you can't express that value as a simple expression. Now, you actually always can write a simple expression for that, because you can write a function literal that you then call at the end with parentheses, but that gets sort of weird looking. So that's my main use for init.
Yeah, me too. No, really. Do you use linters internally in Google, or meta-linters? And if so, what do you use?
Yeah, Google, our internal, if you're talking about, so when people say internally at Google, it's ambiguous. Do you mean like the Go team, which is in Google? Because most of us work with open source tools like Garrett. But the internal tools are, frankly, they're better. And there's an extensive linters and checkers that run on every We call them CLs instead of PRs, but every CL that you put up there is extensively checked by multiple things, including things that suggest changes and things that say, if I deleted this line and your test still passed, are you sure that you want this? I changed this value from true to false and your test still passed. Are you sure? You know, like there's a lot of stuff going on. It's beyond just linting.
Yeah, there's a few questions here around immutable values. Have you considered immutable values like in Kotlin?
Sorry. Yeah, we think about that periodically, but I think we would think about that now, probably not in isolation, but as part of a solution that would give us something towards data race freedom. So that's sort of a hot thing in other programming languages. Of course, you know, Rust offers that, but there's many other languages that are either sort of experimental languages like Val and Pony, or tweaks to existing languages like OCaml that try to bring data race freedom. And immutability is a part of that solution in many of these languages, but there's many other pieces involved. So I don't think we would just add like immutable variables in isolation, because that would be an example of a change that wouldn't bring quite enough value. But if it were part of something that could bring us closer to Rust's like data race freedom property, then I think it would be on the table for that.
You know, we all sort of joked that we'd let Jonathan answer all the questions, but it turns out it was actually what happened.
Yeah.
I wasn't joking, Cameron.
Yeah, me neither.
I guess me neither.
Jonathan, were you joking? Oh,
He
I
wasn't here.
declined to answer that question.
fair enough. I didn't say must. Alice, you spend a lot of time gathering insights from the wider community. Is there anything people could do to make your life easier? Is it just a case of just answer the survey?
I don't know that. I don't want to put the burden on every individual person to make my life easier. Oh yeah, you could, if you see me handing out any of these or see them on a table, there's a little QR code if you want to participate, if you contribute to an open source project or you maintain an open source project. We kind of want to understand what makes maintaining a project, an open source project, difficult or boring or tedious, and we want to know all the details of that. So you could respond to that. And really, you know, help me help you, because I want to make your life easier. So, yeah, and thanks for participating in all our surveys and all our research. We really appreciate that. You know, you can always give me not just what you want, but, you know, tell me a little bit about why and how it affects you. Just knowing those kind of details really help me make a good case to the team. And, you know, thanks for participating.
You're welcome. Just on behalf of everyone, I do it as well. But I always lie. It's just a troll. Why is Go successful, Cameron? Why is it successful?
So, you know, what I said earlier about those early design decisions that were so like compelling at that stage of the early market with innovators, early adopters, that those same things continue to be relevant today, I think is one of the really key sort of things that contributed to its success, like the compatibility promise, like other decisions that were made about how Go should be a slowly evolving language or other things like that. So that's one thing. Another is that we've aligned well with the trends or technology things that happened. Like it so happened that Go was really well suited for cloud. And cloud is a really important sort of technology shift that has occurred in like the last 10 years or is ongoing. So Go was there to sort of heed that call and do a good job for any developer looking to build like a new cloud native application. Go became that language, and if you look at like the CNCF or any infrastructure projects for cloud, Go is really the language. And then in some sense, perhaps maybe we got lucky that things like Kubernetes, Terraform, Docker, whatever else, all recognized that value and then used Go and sort of allowed us to evolve and get better, but also were kind of like good I don't know, markers of the quality of this, and if you proceed that way. And I think we still do all these things. I think it'll still continue to propel our future. I really sincerely believe that like the best is yet to come in terms of the success of the language.
Oh yeah, that does sound exciting. This one might be for Jonathan, I don't know. Why did you not introduce, and I don't mean specifically you, Jonathan, but the question says, why did you not introduce zero functions in the same way that you have zero values for things?
What would that mean, a zero function?
I don't know, because they're nil, aren't they, by default?
Yeah, there's a nil value for a function,
Yeah.
a function type.
I suppose it would be nice if you could say, here's the, no, but then just a function. Good question. I mean, good point, I don't know. I wasn't being sarcastic, that is a good question. I've had that thing where I have in the past thought, I wish I didn't have to just keep doing this. I wish I could just have a special function type, that's it, function type that has an implementation by default.
Oh, like default functions, like an interface with default functions. Yeah, there are languages that have interfaces, they don't have full inheritance, but those interfaces can have default functions. I mean, it's complicated, I guess, is the answer why we didn't do that. And I haven't heard anyone asking for, I haven't heard, like, obviously someone's asking for it, but I haven't heard a proposal where people are seriously proposing that as a feature, so.
Yeah. One proposal I've seen a few of these, and a few questions here about, what about some syntactic sugar around the if error doesn't equal nil thing? Oh, sorry, just an ad break. We'll just pause you there. We'll see you after these messages. Can't we skip ads? What does Glecht Gent Vita mean? Just click it, let's see. What's this even? Don't buy this product.
Oh, parkour, that's so cool. I love parkour.
Maybe we just put the slide on. That fire's too hot anyway.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time, making error handling simpler. We tried, there was a proposal called try. People didn't like it, and not enough people, it was too controversial. But we talk about it all the time. And by all the time, we have internal summits every 6 months, and Ian Lance Taylor has another idea for doing it. And we think, I think they're all good, and they get incrementally better, but I don't know. I don't know. Cameron, do you have any insight, or Alice?
I mean, we do get a lot of feedback on this. It's highly variable, and sometimes people will just tell me error handling ! As a pain point for them. So.
Right.
I like it the way it is. I understand I might be in the minority, but everything Jonathan said is correct. It just so happens I hope it doesn't change.
Yeah, I mean, to Cameron's point, we may have sold the language too well. This is my personal view, but this idea of radical simplicity and errors are just another type that you handle. We may have sold that too well, I think, in that sense that there's a large fraction of the community that just doesn't want it to change because it's really, really simple. I'm not one of those people, but I totally get that. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, people are used to like exceptions, and so you feel like, oh, this is doing stuff for me, but there's a trade-off to that, and so I'm in the camp of I wouldn't want to see that change, honestly.
Well, we would never go the way of exceptions. It would be more like just syntactic sugar for I'd like to return the error from here. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Also, Cameron, I liked it when you said, I might be in the minority, but I agree with Jonathan. I thought it was a brutal troll.
I didn't say I agree with him. What he said is correct.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. Are there any plans to extend the Go Present tool? It's a great tool, this questioner says. Cheers.
Didn't Travis actually just do it for his talk? Maybe, did you submit a CL for that, Travis? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not aware of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know what it is either.
No. Will sync pool be generic? Sync.pool. We had a talk earlier about database pools, and we learned about what that is and how it makes things faster. Well, would sync pool make sense that it could be generic, doesn't it?
I think it would make sense, and I think people have talked about doing that, but I haven't seen anything.
Bear in mind, like, Go is open source. You know, we can also work on it as well. It's not
Make a
just up to-
proposal or it didn't happen.
Sorry?
Make a proposal or it didn't happen.
There you go.
It would also be very easy to write a wrapper around sync pool, a generic wrapper around it if you wanted that for your project. Yeah.
Yeah. If you did it, can you have like a new generic function with the same name? And
No.
No. Okay. So you would have to be called
Sync
something
pool
different.
for, it's
For.
FOR. You know, it's a
Yes.
common.
Yeah. Not like for like the movie
not-
franchise.
not the number.
Sync pool, like Deadpool. Sync pool 4, coming soon. Where do you see Go in 10 years' time?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
If you had asked us that 2 years ago, or maybe even
Well, how would you see it in 8 years,
months
then?
ago, my point is like there was no generative AI, so our answers would have been obviously completely ridiculous. So I feel like if we answered that now, the same thing would be true. I can't imagine.
I think I know that there are new problem domains that emerge, you know, and that more of those will emerge. And I know that Go is just really well sort of positioned for that. So it doesn't mean that it will sort of address those problem domains well. Anything can happen. It's hard to sort of foresee that. But it is really well positioned, you know, among all the languages. I see, you know, some other languages are also sort of well positioned, Rust in particular. But Go is even better positioned. So I think that Go will, like I said a little earlier, that the best days are ahead of it as more sort of workloads move to the cloud, as these watershed moments where like a lot of new companies emerge, stuff is sort of net new stuff is created. Those are key opportunities where Go could see some, you know, rapid growth, if that's the sort of metric of success here. And I think like that'll happen, and I think that it'll sort of continue to deliver the value that it provides. The community will continue to sort of be a joint owner in it, or owner of it. So, you know, success is what I see 10 years from now.
That's a good answer, but I like the fact that in 10 years, we don't know what the world is going to look like. You know, I mean, I honestly don't even assume I'm going to be alive in November. So, these big plans, I don't know. Right, Becca asks...
Don't miss Go Lab in Florence in November.
Oh, there you
want
go.
to be alive
Something-
for that.
Something to live for. Florence is beautiful, though, by the way, if you haven't been. Becca asks a question which I suspect is just something that's definitely just happening to them right now. The question is, if a former Java developer joins your team and wants to introduce dependency injection, what do you tell them? Becca, do you just want to phone that person now and put them on with Jonathan?
The opposite of phoning a friend, sort of.
Yeah. Troll a friend, phone an enemy. Do you do dependency injection?
So let me start with the positive.
Yeah.
Ross Light, a former Go team member, is an excellent developer. I got the opportunity to work with him several years ago. He wrote a dependency injection framework called Wire that you can find, W-I-R-E, and it's pretty good for dependency injection framework. So there are people, experienced, excellent Go developers, former Go team members, who thinks dependency injection is a good thing. I personally have never found that its value outweighs its negatives, which are, and that was a static dependency injection thing where you get compiled code that looks like normal code. The ones that happen at runtime, where you throw everything into a bag and then everything pulls stuff out of that bag as needed, I think they're not in the spirit of Go's explicit control flow. They're the opposite of that. So I think that would be my short answer to that person, that see if you can get into Go and understand why we prefer things to be as explicit as possible, and then in 6 months of writing Go, see if you feel dependency injection still is worth the value that it adds.
Yeah, for me, it's just the magic of it. I don't mind big, long lists of arguments because it's so easy and you get the compiler help immediately and stuff. Some people see that kind of code and they're like, oh, that doesn't look very professional. But
Let's simplify that code by building a massive framework blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Exactly, and then hide all everything that's going on somewhere else. Okay, Oscar asks, will we ever see AI-specific functionality in the standard library? Do you see that happening?
No, not anytime soon. But if there are things that enable AI use cases, and that makes sense, like people want to create libraries on top of Go, but they need some functionality in order to do it, like better sort of matrix multiplication or SIMD something. That could be a reason why we'd build that out. Sort of back to the vision of trying to support the new problem domains and being sure the community can build the libraries that enable everybody to be productive and build stuff.
An analogy would be like the big math packages that are, my guess is they're probably mostly there for crypto.
Not cryptocurrency.
Not cryptocurrency, cryptography, yeah. Thank you.
You didn't strike me as the type. Are you planning to make an error as a variable, not as an interface? I don't quite understand what that means.
No?
Probably not.
Someone else says, why are you sitting in inverted order?
What?
So
Why not?
Jonathan went first onto the stage, and he sat where he is sitting now, and the rest of us just kind of followed him.
Oh.
So ask Jonathan.
Oh, I see.
No, that's fine.
To me, it looks like I'm in the right place. I'm on the right. Yeah, we're all in the right place according to our monitor here.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And for what it's worth, Alice noticed we were inverted and was disappointed, so.
Yeah, this is it. This is what happens when you get in front of a group of pedants. What's coming in Go 123 and 124? Like, what have we got to look forward to? Oh, there we go.
Where's our photographer? Make sure you take a picture of that.
Okay, so question 2. Yeah, this it. Now do this it. What do we think? What's coming up that you're looking forward to in Go?
Oh, man. Okay.
I'm looking forward to all the feedback that I'm going to get on it.
Yeah.
I like range over func. So if you don't know what that is, let me explain it very quickly. You can range over a slice and you get the elements of the slice. You can range over a map and you can get the keys and values. And now in 123, and this has been an experiment in 122, so you could literally play with it immediately if you set the right environment variable. You can type range, for something : equals range, and then you can type a function. And that function has to have a special form that I won't go into here, but it lets you build iterators. And we'll be adding iterator support. There's already some iterator support in the X package, in the X repo, and we'll be adding more to the standard library. That's going to open up a whole area of Go that wasn't done very well. Not that it wasn't done well, but it was sort of unexplored territory. Data structures that can have iterators over them, and functions that can take iterators and return iterators and stuff. So if you like functional programming, you're going to get to have a bit more of that. And it's also going to just be a generally fun thing to use, I think.
Zvonimir, you want to?
Yes, there's also going to be a new web checker that's going to tell you if you're using a standard library symbol that actually that doesn't exist in the Go version that's specified in the Go mod file, for instance. That's also a nice thing coming up.
For me, it's the sort of evolution of profile-guided optimization, or PGO. If you're not familiar with PGO, just real brief, what you can do is you can profile your application at runtime using any of the, like the Linux perf tool or any of the other sort of performance monitoring tools that create this standardized sort of output that shows where and how your application sort of behaved at runtime, what parts of it were hotter than others. And so you can then feed that information back into the compiler so that it can make more intelligent decisions about what to inline or devirtualize or other things like that. So just it has a view of runtime when it didn't have that before. And if you do, you can sort of create this like deployment pipeline where you are monitoring yourself at runtime, feeding that data back into your compiler, maybe in your CI/CD. And every version of Go, we're going to continue to make PGO better. Like, there's a lot more left to do. And so it's going to be like the gift that keeps on giving, where your binaries keep getting better in a way that's sort of bespoke for your use case. I think that's really cool.
That is very cool, and what a great one to end on. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have. But thank you. Please give it up for the Go team, everybody.